Amanda's Bookish Adventures. Today I want to be talking about fantasy romance. I want to be talking about some I've read and then some I'd like to read. So I would have to say fantasy romance is getting really popular on BookTube and Instagram. It's getting really a popular subgenre of romance. And I've actually really enjoyed a lot of these fantasy romances. Most of them are 5 stars. I actually really love fantasy, and it's become one of my favorite subgenres of romance. Yes, I know. So let me go this way. So just a couple I've read. I've read the Court of Thorns and Roses series, but I haven't read the newer book. I've read Radiance, and Radiance has 2 books. I didn't write the second one down because it's kind of a sequel, but the first one is basically about, I can't remember, it's been a while since I've read it. But the main character, I'm gonna say he's kind of like a dark elf, marries this dark elf for an alliance for the kingdom to do trading routes. And she's used to daylight hours. Well, because of this dark elf, their people are used to the night. They go temporarily blind if they're up during the day around lunchtime. And it was a really cool magic system and a really beautiful world. There are 3 books in that series. 2 are from the first main character's perspective, and the third one is from a character in that series, but the third one is only on Kindle Unlimited. The first 2 I read on paperback from my library. Haven't been able to read the third book. I've also read From Blood and Ash, very popular. Sorcery of Thorns. I love Sorcery of Thorns. I love Blood and Ash. The Winter King. We got cut off. Like I was saying, I want to do a reread of The Winter King. It's similar to Radiance, where I think there was a war. I can't remember. That's why I wanted to reread. I read it like 2 to 3 years ago. So there was a war. The princess gets engaged to the Winter King to kind of stop the war, and it was really good from what I remember. I gave it a 5 star. I wish I owned it so I could just reread it. I'll probably check it out because I want to read the sequels on the list of the books I want to read. And then let's see. I have read Outlander. I've read the first 3, and I'd like to go back and do a reread. I like the additions of the television show. I have the first one, and I slowly want to get the others and then just do a reread. I loved Outlander. I love the time travel aspect. I love Claire and Jamie, and I love the history. I've read Grave Mercy, and I read it twice. I should just buy the rest of the whole series to have them, because I love the books. So the first book is basically they are assassins, and you get contracted out for either to find other assassins or subplots. I'm gonna probably keep getting cut off, but I have other people here today. It's interesting. Grave Mercy. So the main, I can't remember her name because it's been a couple years. She gets contracted to help protect, I'm gonna say she's a princess or a duchess, and she gets contract out to help her pick a suitor, basically, or to help protect her, defend her and stuff. There is a guard. They go all through it just trying to make sure she doesn't end up in a bad marriage like her mother. So that's kind of the plot, and it's really interesting because the assassins, like each kind of unit, they are descended from the god of death or something. They have some of his blood. They're his daughters, and so they could see if their light is going to die, if someone's going to die. Some have unique abilities like a seer or a poisoner. So some of them are really, really interesting, and I can't talk more about that. That's all I remember, but I really enjoyed it for YA. And then I read Strange Dreamer, and I loved Strange to the Dreamer. I loved the journey to get to the place. Lasso's, I think that's his name. It's been 2 years since I've read it. His journey, I haven't read the sequel. His journey is amazing too, from working in this library and being raised as an orphan to go onto this journey to see the city that he wants. And the history of the city is very unique. The people of the city is unique. And I think it's the tower, or the people in the tower are the children of the gods are extremely unique, and I want to get back into that world as soon as I can. And then I read Serpent and Dove, and I haven't continued, but that's basically about a witch and a witch hunter getting forced to marry because of a situation. I think maybe they were caught doing something, or it was a situation, the forced marriage. He did not like his wife. He absolutely hated his wife. Then they slowly fall in love, and it's a really amazing journey, and I love the magic system in that book. How the witches have their own histories, and how they cast out boys. They only accept the daughters of the children. So it was very interesting to see, and I need to continue on with that series. It was so fun when I read it. It was a 5-star when I read it. And then I read The Cruel Prince, and it's over there. Basically, The Cruel Prince is about it's about the main character, but it goes through her family history about her older sister being half fae, and her mother escaped her fae husband, came back to the mortal world with her daughter, and had married a human and had 2 other, I think twins, had 2 other girls. And Jude was one of the other girls. I can't remember the sisters' names. I'm going to do a reread of that in the next couple months. Well, the husband basically comes back, kills the parents, and takes the kids and raises them himself. So you see how the fae treats the human sisters over the fae sister, and the plot in the fae world. It's really interesting, and I love Holly Back's writing. I don't read enough of it, but I love The Cruel Prince, and I'm going to continue on. Now, The Shadows Between Us, I loved, and it has been a couple years. I want to get it because I think I read on the author's Instagram that she might write a epilogue for the paperback. I might be wrong. So The Shadows Between Us is about a girl trying to marry a king, and he has the ability of shadows. He won't let people touch him, and the plot, and she has to stand so feet away. It is YA, but I wish it was an adult. It's basically Alina and the Darkling, what would have happened if they got together. So I love that. It was really interesting to see the magic in the system, and because the Shadow King can live for a very long time. It was very interesting, and the plot and the fashion choices, it was kind of I really enjoyed it. Can't say much about it because it's been a couple years, but it was so good that I loved Owl Crate's edition, but I do love the red and black edition of it. So I would love a sequel from that world. I know it's a standalone, but I would like a spin-off, with other characters, or even centuries later in that world, or even a prequel. All right, and then I have 2 of them here, and I love the covers of both of them. A Deal with the Elf King, Married to Magic novel by, I'm going to say Elise Kova, and she writes a lot of fantasy romances. I do want to go back and get her other books because I absolutely enjoyed this, but I can read to you what this is about. The elves came for 2 things, war and wives. In both cases, they come for death. 3,000 years ago, humans were hunted by powerful races with wild magic until the treaty was formed. For centuries, the elves have taken a young woman from Lula's village. Because of my dyslexia, I don't think I'm pronouncing her name right, to be their human queen. To be chosen is seen as a mark of death by the townsfolk. A mark a 19-year-old Lula is grateful to have escaped. Instead, she is dedicated to her life to study herbology and becoming the town's only healer. That is until the elf king unexpectedly arrives for her. So it was really good. There is a sequel with the Fae Prince. So I know this one's elf, and I think the next one is the Rogue Fae or something, and I want to get it. These covers are absolutely amazing, and it's a retelling of Persephone and Hades. And that's one of my favorite retelling genre. I love Hades' story with Persephone, or most of the retellings anyway. But it's a beautiful cover, and it was whimsical, and it was written so well. It was so fast. I read this in 3 hours. How fast the writing was for me. I think She always gets beautiful covers done. Really. I want to get more into her writing. This was my first one, and I've always wanted to read her books, but this was on sale on Amazon when I got it. And I was like, this was the one that called to me more. I love the cover, I love the retelling, and I love the world. I do want to go back and get her other books, but before that, I want to get the sequel to this book immensely. It was so, so good. And then this one popped up, The Gilded Rose, and absolutely another beautiful cover, and it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. A monster is holding me hostage inside a chateau. The world is plagued by creatures called the Dread, and he's their king. I've tried to run, I've tried to hide, but there's no escaping him. He wants to turn me into one of the creatures, unless I find a way to break the curse, a curse that has turned him into the monster that he is. He wasn't supposed to destroy cities, he was the only one. He's one of the Celestials meant to save humanity. As I uncover the truth and break his curse, I wonder if I've lost myself in the process. Can I still escape him, or has he taken my heart forever? So I actually really like the Dread. There are other kings of the Dread in other cities, so I haven't got the other ones, but I really like the dragon system and the Dread and the curse and the cult. I don't know, like they're magicians and they wear red and you don't see. They control the Dread. And the Dread change humans into Dread. Some of the Dread in that book remember kind of who they are, or like some of their skills. Like one remembers she was a cook and she wants to go back and they have more humanity, but some of them just don't remember and they lost the humanity. And it was interesting to see, like, basically like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing. But the Dread, they don't eat humans, they just want to turn them. The traps, like in the books, to like prevent them from getting into the city, I really found interesting. And the main character, really interesting in how she didn't fight. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I want to get the other books because the other kings sound so good. And the cover is really beautiful. She has other series too that I want to read. What I know is like, most of her writing is fantasy romance. Emma Ham, I think. And it was so good. And like I said, with A Promise to Deal with the Elf King, I read that one in 3 hours too because of how fast the writing was. And yes, they're short, but I was consumed by those two worlds, and I read them back to back. So I absolutely loved those books, and it was a really fun time. And now here is just a list of some I want to get to in the next couple months. I want to read A Chapman of Ravens, The Sea King, Fortuna Sworn. I'd like to read all of the Fortuna Sworns up till the new release. The White Hawk Kiss, Promise of Darkness, and A Promise of Fire. I'm probably going to try to read Promise of Fire because Becca from Becca in the Books did an interview with the author about that book. So I definitely want to, read that one first. There's other ones on that I didn't write down. It's really exciting. I'm excited for some of the releases for fantasy romance next year. Some of them look really, really good. And maybe I'll do a video of like the top 10 or the top ones I really want to read next year at the beginning of the year or the end of the year. All right, that is it for now. Thank you for coming and watching me talk about fantasy romance. If there are some that I have missed, and the Throne of Glass series, I'm currently reading that series. But is there some of them that I missed, or some like down below that you want to talk about, and maybe I'll check them out. But that is it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!